What do we know about Hashem? What do we know about God, about the Creator? Lots of things. The Creator, God, is infinite. And infinite doesn't just mean infinitely large. God is so big, it's bigger than the universe. That's true. But that's a very one-dimensional view of infinity. There's something fascinating that it says in an ancient book of Kabbalah called Avodas HaKodesh. It says something, it's a little bit heavy, but it's super deep. And what it says is, in Aramaic, Kucha Bricha Shlei Musa Jakula. The Holy One, blessed be He, is absolutely infinite. Not relatively infinite. How many numbers are there? Infinity, right? Whatever number you could think of, you could always plus one and add one to that and add one to that. So the set of numbers is infinitely large, but it's not absolutely infinite. It doesn't include chairs or tomatoes. It includes numbers. God is absolutely infinite. And this text continues, it says that God is absolutely infinite, just like God is infinite and has the capacity for infinity. So too, God also has the ability to limit. God is the source of finitude, of finiteness. And it has to be, because if you would say, right, and this is something that I've heard some, actually I would say very intelligent people and people who are wise and have a lot of very powerful things to say, and I've heard them struggle with this, out loud in public conversations, and it just, once you get this point, it makes it all so simple, right? And they talk about, well, if God is infinite, then where does limitation come from and how does that work? And in this text, in this Kabbalistic text, it makes it very simple and clear. If you would think that God is so infinite, that God cannot limit and make things small, that God cannot manifest Himself in a way of being small, that's a pretty severe limitation that you're placing on God. That God is limited to being infinitely large. That's not infinite. That's maybe a little bit more infinite than the set of numbers. But if God is absolutely infinite, Shlei Musa Dekula, then that means that the same way that God is infinite, God also contains within the source of, God is the source and the origin of limitation, of finitude, of smallness. And the bottom line is, the math is, it has to be. Because if God is absolutely infinite, that means there is nothing that is not included in God. If finitude, if smallness wasn't included in God, God would be limited. God wouldn't be absolutely infinite. There'd be something missing, something not lacking. So God is so infinite that is not limited to being infinite. It's infinite and finite at the same time, and the source of all of the above and everything else, and the source of time and space and ideas and concepts, etc. In short, God is very big, right? Now imagine, not imagine, we don't have to imagine, but think for a second, if we can take our foremost value, the foremost value of Torah Judaism, which is our responsibility to God, to the absolutely infinite, to the Creator, our responsibility to do our part in realizing the purpose for which God put us here, the reason for which the Creator brought the universe into being, and that responsibility to God, to Torah, to mitzvahs is our foremost value. And God is so infinite, so big, that there's nothing too big or too small to be a part of or to come from within God. Imagine if we could take that God and combine that together with a real experience of connection. And I would say that the truth is, and I don't think this is an overstatement. I think that the synthesis of these two things, of our responsibility to God and the indescribable powerful, beautiful force of connection, if we can bring those two together and experience that beauty of connection in that responsibility. If we can have those two things together, I don't think it's an overstatement to say that this might just be the single most valuable opportunity that exists for us if we can bring those things together. Because, I mean, first of all, at the end of the day, like it or lump it, God does run the show. God is infinite. God just decides exactly what's going to happen and how it's going to happen, and it is what it is. Now, we could either just shuffle along and do our thing and just take it as it is what it is, or if we know how, and we'll talk about this, if we can have that responsibility to the Creator, which we believe and know is true and correct and right, and if we can live up to and stand up to that responsibility and do it with a deep sense of connection. So the same way that when Shlomi takes the garbage out, it's an act of love and connection. The same way that when a parent changes the diaper on their 6-month-old child, it's an act of love and connection. And it really is a truly beautiful thing, even if sometimes we're not really in the mood. We can, there's no reason we can't, and there's no reason we shouldn't have that in every part of our responsibility to the Creator. When we study Torah, when we do mitzvahs, when we put on tefillin, when we light Shabbos candles, when we keep Shabbos, when we keep kosher, when we give charity, when we do whatever it is that we do, all the things, and we all know that's a very long list. Everything on that list can be an act of connection. If our relationship with the Creator, if our relationship with Hashem resembles that indescribable magic that you'll feel when you walk into Shlomi's Shabbos table, if our relationship with God is like that, that there's a real connection, then we can be busy doing all the things we have to do and living up to these responsibilities, and every single moment of that can be indescribably meaningful and fulfilling and deeply experientially beautiful, not just beautiful in the book because it says so, but beautiful inside here.